Hello and welcome back to Art Club. We are going to be starting a 2-day project today. This day we are going to be working on sort of the background, and then tomorrow we're going to be creating our creatures for that background. So as you can see, this is going to be the end result, sort of a sweet little water sea look with some sea creatures inside of it that you will get to choose. So for now, let's just start off by creating that background. We're going to need to gather some supplies first. So here's what we're going to need for today. A paper plate. We're going to need our hole puncher. We are of course going to need our watercolor paints. So that includes, your paint or your water dish and paintbrush as well. I like to use a little bit bigger paintbrush than what the watercolor paints come with. So if you have a bigger brush, feel free to get that out. We're going to need scissors, a few pieces of tape, and of course we're going to need our fibers, right? We're going to need some yarn. Now I am choosing to use a blue yarn because I happen to have blue yarn, but kind of any of the colors you might see in the water or reflected off the water work, or also we can use our imaginations and have that water be other colors. So like blues, greens, purples work really well. But once again, let your imagination as an artist run wild if you want to do a different color other than those colors that we typically think of when we think of water. So those are all of our supplies, which you're seeing here. Our first step is going to be to paint the background of our scene. So we want to paint it, I'm going to do just plain blue for the sky, but maybe you want to do something creative. Maybe you want to have like a sunset or sunrise. Maybe you want to actually include the sun in there. Maybe you want to have a rainbow. Like I said, I'm just going to go simple with mine. And I'm just going to be painting it blue. By me today, it's a beautiful sunny day, so I'm inspired by those beautiful blue skies. Now you only have to paint the top half of your plate because, as you probably noticed, the bottom half of our plate is going to be covered with yarn. Now that being said, you can kind of see through the yarn a little bit, and so if you want to paint the plate as well so that any of those spots where you can see through the yarn, it's still painted, you can definitely do that. So this is all we would have to paint, but if you wanted to do the whole thing, you're having fun with your watercolor painting and you want to do some more, go ahead and do that bottom portion as well. And if you are doing something more detailed than me, maybe you are doing that sunset or sunrise, maybe you're adding a rainbow, maybe you have clouds in yours. If you're doing something a little more detailed and it's taking more time than what mine is right now, feel free to pause the video at this point and come back to it once you have your painting done. All right, once you do have your painting done, our next step is going to be to get out our hole puncher. And I know some of these are really hard to use the hole puncher, right? They can be a little stiff, especially when you first start using them. So if you need your at-home mentor to help with this part, feel free to ask them. All right, our goal is going to be to have 10 holes. We're going to start kind of at the halfway point on each side and to have 10 holes leading to the bottom. They do not have to meet all the way in the middle. In fact, we kind of want them to end somewhere around here. Because if it's down here, the yarn's not going to go back and forth very easily in that tight of a space. Let me show you what I mean. So I'm going to go here and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay? We could do more if you find that you want to get a little closer to the bottom and you want to add another 1 or 2. We just want to have the same number on each side ideally. Okay, so now I'm going to start over on this side. Once again, we're only doing the lower half. So here we go. Got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Okay, so you can see how there is a little bit of a space in between there, but that's going to work out perfectly. That's how we want it to be. So I can set that off to the side next. And we're going to get out our yarn. All right, so how much yarn do we need? Well, that's a great question. I like to measure it out using my arm widths. So going all the way from these fingertips here to these fingertips over here. So you can see how it goes all the way across. So for me, I'm going to do 3 of those. But I'm going to guess I'm a little bit taller, which means I have a little bit longer wingspan than many of you. So you might want to do more like 5 or maybe even 6 of your wingspans. It's going to kind of depend, you know, if nothing else, if you have a little extra, we can always trim it off at the end. We just don't want it to be overly too much because it does get to be a little overwhelming when you're doing the weaving back and forth. So there was 2 for me, and I'm going to measure out a 3rd one. And once we've got that measured out, go ahead and give it a cut. So you can see I've got a whole bunch of string ready to go. I'm going to start off by putting it through the bottom here. And it doesn't matter which side you start on, but I'm going to put it through the bottom and I'm going to tape it onto my back side. So here we go. And just tape that on down. If you need more than one piece of tape, just to make sure it's really secure, we don't want that coming loose. So there we go. So we're starting off with it at the lower one on one side. It doesn't matter which one. Okay, now I need to find the other end. That can take a second to do, right? Find the other end of my yarn. And here it is. So some people like to just kind of get their fingers wet and twist it. Some people like to grab a little bit of tape and you can, almost like the end of a shoelace, you can roll it around like that. Either way works. So if you find that, you know, you don't have an issue with your yarn coming too undone, or also you can just cut it too if it comes too undone. But that's another option as well. So whatever works for you. Basically what we're going to do is every time we are on the front side of the plate, we're going to go across. Every time we're on the back side of the plate, we're going to go up 1. Okay, so we're going to go across to the matching one. And we've got to pull it on through. It's going to take a minute, right? Because there is a lot of yarn right now. So on the front, we went across. On the back side, we're going to go up. So I'm not going across again. I'm going to go up 1. So I've got to find that end of my yarn again. And there is a lot of it, and it's very staticky by me. It's sticking to my clothes. So here I'm going to go up 1, and we pull it again. So pulling that on through. Sometimes it'll make little knots along the way, you know, and that's okay. That's normal. So just if you can get those knots out, great. If you need help from your at-home mentor, that works too. All right, so that was up because it was the back, but now we're in the front again. So what direction do we go? Yeah, we go across for the front. Okay, so here we go, across. There we go. And now we're in the back again, so we're going to go up, find the end of my yarn here. It gets easier the further we go because there isn't as much remaining yarn, right? So we're in the back, we go up, and we bring it through. Lots and lots of yarn at this point. Now we're in the front, so in the front we go across again. There we go. Oh, you can see I'm starting to get a little knot, so I'm going to try to loosen that out so it doesn't make a really tough knot. I'm in the back, so I go up. And we're just going to keep on going back and forth, just like this. Okay? So we're starting off, we're going to keep going all the way up for the sake of this video, and so it doesn't take too long. I am going to show you what it'll look like once we are near the end of it, or potentially at the end of it. So we want it to look something kind of like this, okay? If you need to pause your video at this point to get to this, go ahead and do so, and then come back to it once you've got yours all the way up to those top ones. But once you do get to this point, you have a choice to make. You could either, if you've got some leftover yarn, you could just cut it and tape it, just like we did to start with. Or if you still want more water for your C, what you can do is continue back down, okay? So I started by going from the bottom up. Now I can go, when I'm in the back, I go down. And in the front, you're still going to go across, right? Just like we did before. So going across again. And this is just going to make it more thick in the front. So in the back, now I go down, right? Each time. There we go. And I'll just kind of show you what that looks like. By having a little bit more yarn, it's just going to be a little bit more thick there. You could even choose to, if you want to have some waves in your water, instead of going directly down, or directly across I should say, you could choose to go on a bit of a diagonal. Oops, my yarn's getting all twisty here. So do you see how I went from this one, instead of going directly across, I went one down? So I could do something like that, maybe come back up and go diagonal down on the other side. So really, if you have extra yarn, or if you even want to add more yarn to yours, because you can always tape more in the back, right? So if you choose to do that, feel free to get creative with this. If you want to have it zig or diagonal, if you want to have, you know, more water than less, you can kind of make that choice once you get to those steps. And then whenever you look at the front of it and you go, that looks good, that looks like it's finished, what we'll do, give me a second, this guy's being a stinker here. That one didn't come through. There we go. But once we are finished, once we think it looks good, we'll get this last one through. What we would want to do at that point is just give it a cut and tape it on down. Make sure that your plate isn't bending towards the center. And I'm going to put 2 pieces of tape again. I just want to really make sure that that holds. And now you are ready to go for our next day of art club fun, and we will see you then.